She was about 14 months old, and we were sitting at the dinner table one night, and she kept playing with her food, and he said, Yvette, stop playing with your food. And she just kept doing it and kept doing it. And finally he got up and walked around the side of the table, and he just tapped her on the shoulder, and he said, I said, quit playing with your food. And she just looked like totally shocked, like she had no idea. And he looked at me and he said, I swear she didn't hear a word I said. He took her in the living room, and I went in the kitchen, got out the pots and pans, and I was beating her with a spoon, and he said, she never even looks up. She has no idea that that's going on. I called an ear, nose, and throat doctor. He said, well, he did all the little tests on her, ring the little thing and holding it up to her ear, and he said, I just don't believe she can hear at all, and I think it's probably nerve damage, which can't be fixed. When we moved to Stephenville when she was in almost finished first grade, because her teacher in Dallas told me, she said, they're about to start teaching sign here, and I don't want Yvette to learn to sign because she's doing too well the other way, and if they learn to sign, it's so much simpler to take her somewhere where nobody will know how to sign. So we moved back home to Stephenville for that very reason, and you should have seen their faces when I started up to the school and told them, said, I have this child and she's deaf, but you're going to have to take her. They did. They put her in Mildred Clegren's classroom, and Mildred was scared to death. She said, I've never done this before, but I will do my very best, to make sure that I'm looking at her instead of turning my back and talking like most teachers do when they're talking to the board writing at the same time. But she did really well. In second grade, her teacher assigned one of the other students, Shanna Walker, to be her little note taker, and because Shanna was an excellent student, so they did that for a year, and she did okay. But the older she got, the harder it got, and I got to checking into it, and they were supposed to be providing her with a note taker. She really needed was a note taker and somebody to sit beside her and tell her things that the teacher was saying that she might not have seen. She was probably in 7th grade, and finally somebody said to me, if you're going to do all this fine, why don't you get on the school board where you could really do some good? And I thought, you run for office? I won barely by like 3 or 4 votes. But in a small town, 3 or 4 votes is all you need. And I served 5 terms. I graduated both my kids from high school, got to give them both their diplomas, because they had a rule, if you have a graduating senior, you get to give out all the diplomas that year. When she was little and started school, they told us you cannot do too much repetition with deaf people. They just got to have it over and over and over. But I would sit at the table, and I'd sit across from her and tell her like 2 words together. And Lance was a baby. He was like 8, 9 months old, and he was sitting at the end of the table in his high chair because I didn't want him off running around while I was trying to do my teaching. I didn't realize I was picking up all this good stuff. And I'd say to her, say, cookie, please. And she'd, and I said, no, I have this cookie here. If you want it, you have to say, cookie, please. And we did that like 49 times. And all of a sudden, Lance, 9 months old, just sat up in his high chair and said, cookie, please. And I was like, oh my gosh. But I know it's because he was just soaking up all this good stuff that we were doing over and over and over. And by the time he started school, it was nothing. I never told him to do his homework. I never had to tell him. He never made a B. Yvette went to college first. She went to Tarleton for 2 years. And then she told me, she said, Mother, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to go to beauty school and be a hairdresser like you. Oh, no. But she did, and she did. And then when Lance started at Tarleton, he went 4 years to Tarleton, and then he got his master's degree at Tarleton, and he got a degree in accounting and one in computer information systems, and one in business. I said, are we going to get a job now? He said, no, I think I'm going to go to law school. Oh my gosh, all we do is go to school. He said, but I'm so good at it. And he was really good at it. So he went off to law school, and Yvette went to work in the beauty shop, and then she met her husband, and they got married, and she has 2 beautiful children. And she just goes through every day like she thinks she can hear, and she doesn't have any problems at all. When she was in high school, she was homecoming queen, and her picture was splashed all over the newspapers all over the United States, and everybody told me. And when she was in college, she was on the drill team. Well, Lance just came along behind that, and got out of law school after he worked himself through for the past 2 years, because I ended up in a divorce, and he and I sort of had to hook it on our own. And he started working at night and going to school all day. And the company that he worked for at night was a new company. And after about 2 years, and when he finished law school, he said, you know what, I believe I could start a company just like this, and because I'm running this one, and I'm just not getting paid for it. So he did, opened up his own little out of his living room with 5 or 6 other guys that were willing to pitch in, and some of them came from the same place he did. It just seems like everything he touches turns to gold. He has such confidence in himself, and he just thinks he can do anything. He just even told me he was going to run for president in 2020, but I begged him, please don't do that, because don't put your poor mother through that. Well, Lance is a very much a giving person. He has done so much. When he was in law school, and he'd have to call me, and he and I were both having such a hard time, and he'd say, Mom, can I just have a 20 spot? One of these days I'm going to give you so many 20 spots you won't be able to spend them all. And sure enough, he has. He's when he got out of law school, his second year out of law school, he bought me a house, paid for it. And he paid all my bills. I never had to pay anything. And then my mother came to live with me, and for 7 years. And when she passed away, my brother came to live with me about a year later. So I've never really been by myself. But he called me one day and he said, Mom, I'm going to build you a house. I said, what? You've already built me a house. I'll have a really nice house. He said, no, I'm going to build you a house. I'm going to build you a house sitting on a hill. He said, send me some pictures. So I looked in magazines and things, and I sent him some pictures of the houses like the ones that are in my neighborhood out here. And I sent them to him, and he said, no, Mom, I'm going to build you a house. So I said, well, tell me what you're talking about. Well, he sent me this house. It was like a virtual tour, and I went on, and it was, not only was it huge, but it was like decorated with chandeliers and just wonderful things. And I texted him back and I said, you have got to be kidding. You're not going to build me a house like that. He said, yes, I am. Go find me a lot. Find 2 lots, because it's going to take 2 lots to put this house on. Well, that took me about 3 days, and found 2 lots, and he came and looked at them, and he made the guy an offer. It'd been for sale for like 2 years. It's in probably the nicest part of town. We had to get a special permission to put 1 house on 2 lots in a small town. They don't like to do that. But he built me this huge, gigantic house. And he bought his sister a house. He called us one day and he said, meet me at Bruner Motors. I've got a surprise for you. He sent us all the same message. We all appeared. He had 5 brand new Cadillacs, 4 Cadillacs and a Jeep out there for all of us to have a brand new car that day. And he's just always doing something like that. Probably he has a new Rolls Royce. And probably if I called him this afternoon and said, well, Lance, it's not fair that you have a Rolls Royce and your wife has one because I want one too, even though I don't drive. And he'd say, okay, Mom, but it takes about 6 months to order one. Anyway, that's just the kind of guy he is. He just, whatever I need, I get. Yvette's probably overcome more than what Lance has. Lance is just naturally smart. That's just all there was to it. And he's got good common sense. But Yvette, she's had to, fight double being deaf in a hearing society in a small town where she's like the only one. And she still doesn't know that I told her when she was 16 years old, I said, now Yvette, we really need to have you genetically tested. And she said, why? I said, because, you're 16 now. One of these days, if you get married and you have babies, you'll want to know if what caused your deafness is genetic, and because your children, that might happen to them, and you might want to know that. And she said, why? I said, because then you might not want to have kids because yours might be deaf too. And she said, so I'm fine. Why wouldn't they be fine? And I said, well, just forget it then. We're not even going to be tested. That's the end of that. Both of my kids have just been so successful.